everybody, it's me, Laura, and today we're going to be playing with some Fine Tec pearlescent type powders, or I should say watercolor paints. These things are so much fun, oh my gosh. And I had to test this against some of the other powders that are kind of out there because they are, and they really do resemble a lot of similar to what these other pearl powders are like, except they're in watercolor form, and I really love this. So right here you could tell I'm taking one of, this is the Ranger brand of pearls, and I used my paintbrush because I thought that would be really good. But eventually I came back in and I used my finger and I thought, I'm going to go ahead and bear down and make sure it goes right into the clay. Now what you're seeing here is two different ways in which I'm treating the clay. So the white on top there, the first one that I started with, that white is actually acrylic white paint, okay? So just so you know what I'm dealing with. White acrylic paint on top. The next one to it is also with black acrylic paint on top of the clay. And then down below I have my white clay that has not been painted on at all, and my darker, I should say, scrap clay that has not been painted on. So this way then I get a true essence of what they look like on the different kinds of, prepped clay that I'm dealing with. So right here, this is the Temu. I ordered some Temu powders as well, and I thought, okay, we're gonna go ahead and place those down and see what they'll do. And yes, they were very bright. They were really wonderful. And, you know, they could really do some different stuff. But right here, you're going to see what really happens when I bear down or I try to, I rub my finger across the surface. When I did that, look at this. And yes, these are the Temus, okay, or the Temu powders. It comes up. It comes up really badly. And I know that generally when it comes to Pearlex powders or any kind of powder thing, you have to seal this somehow, okay? Either with varnish or with a resin, right? Now, of course, varnish, I don't like the look of that when you try to seal it. And resin has its own problems. I mean, some people have gained allergies in using that resin over time. So it can also be problematic. Well, I'm also looking at the brilliance of some of these. Now, like I said, those Temu colors were really pretty. Pearlex does a great thing too. The Ranger types are also nice, but they all have to be sealed. Otherwise, eventually they'll probably come off. I mean, mind you, the Ranger ones were really nice. You could rub it and you probably wouldn't get much off of there. That's great. But if you really think about it, you probably want to seal it anyway because you don't want to take that chance of having that powder to rub off, right? And right here, I decided to also bring in the full scope of pretty much what all powders would be and used some eyeshadow. Now, of course, this is just whatever knockoff version I had. And really, eyeshadow is not my favorite one to play in when it comes to powders on polymer clay. However, it really boils down to how do we make these powders stay on polymer clay? And this is where my Fine Tec Watercolor pearlescent type paints come into play. And the nice thing about these is that, of course, when you use water with them, they kind of seal in to whatever surface you have. I mean, if you put this on regular paper, it's not going to rub off, right? Well, if you put this on acrylic paint that's been dried, the same thing happens. And I tried doing it on plain raw clay without any kind of, like paint or anything down. Yes, I will admit it just bubbled up because it's a watercolor, right? If you got a watercolor, it's like, it's going to bubble up on regular clay. It's like a wax job on a car that's, where the rain has hit it and you've just got the nice little water puddle balls on whatever you call them on your car. Anyway, I tried it. It didn't work really great. However, if you have an acrylic base where it's been dried and then you go ahead and apply that water, or I should say these pearlescent really great paints onto that acrylic paint, it looks great. It looks really great. In fact, it rivals, in my mind, any kind of powder you put down onto polymer clay. I really try to show here the shimmer and shine of these. They really come across, especially the shimmer, really comes across once they dry. Holy cow, does it just show up. And the thing is too, when you rub any of those powders onto your surface of your clay, you have to sometimes rub hard to make sure they get into the clay so that they'll stay, okay? Maybe you don't want a ton of pressure on your clay when you're rubbing it down. This is where these guys absolutely shine, because you can use a brush, bring it in, and it's great. Now, you're probably saying, why don't you use the metallic acrylic paints, versus this? And I will say there is a difference. And I mean a real difference. I kind of compared them. Yes, you do get a metallic shine from your acrylic paints, but the metallic paints and acrylic paint, they kind of build up over time. Also, here's the other thing. When I put them next to each other, these particular watercolor paints had a better shimmer, a better shine closer to a powder than your acrylic paint did. Your acrylic paint looked almost dull next to this. So this is something you might want to consider. Now, the one bad thing about the Fine Tec Watercolor, Pearlescent paints, whatever you call them, is that the cost of these are a little expensive. When I went online and I kind of checked out Amazon and stuff, the paints, Dick Blick, I saw them close to about $15 per paint, right? I went to Amazon, and the sets are actually cheaper. If you go by the set, you actually get more for your money there. So if you buy a set, you're great. If you have to buy by the pan, it looks like it's closer to $10 a pan through Amazon. My favorite is going to my Guyries. I was able to find them for just the single pans for about $6, a little over $6. And they were comparable though to online as well when it came to sets. Okay, so right here, I'm going to go ahead and show you, there's my Pearlescent, my Fine Tec paints, and this is the acrylic. And I wanted to give you a little bit of a side-by-side. I'm trying to move them in the light so you kind of can see clearly. There is a little bit of a duller finish with that acrylic paint, but I really find with those watercolor ones, they just shine. They are so great. And I'm going to give you a couple of pictures here of where I put them under the light where you can really see their brilliance. And when I do that, I'm going to go ahead and in the description area, I am going to write down what each color is. So when you want to go ahead and buy maybe one of these colors, you'll know exactly which one you're looking at right here through my photos in my video. All right, so in these Fine Tec colors, I wanted to show you this one section I did. I painted the clay in white acrylic paint, and I wanted to just kind of show you what it looked like with the pearlescence, but then when you lean it into the light, how it changes. And this made a huge difference. Normally we don't usually put these onto white paint, but I was surprised at what they could do. Right there where my thumb is, those are the iridescent paints, okay? So they don't look like hardly anything at one point, but then when you tilt it, boy, you get this real neon kind of look. Now, I also then have the white and the black piece down here that has been textured. I used red pearlescent paint, and I wanted to show you the difference between a white background on acrylic paint and black background on acrylic paint. And then right down here at the very corner, this is where I have my premium colors. And the black part is actually a galaxy black. It's like has kind of like a glittery look to it. So if you're wondering, yeah, they have a black even that will do that. Now that galaxy black is a part of the premium colors, which are a little more expensive. So just so you know that there's a premium set and there's also an iridescent set. And they have flip-floppers. So right at the very top here, this is the flip-flop set. Now they're supposed to be where it's like a red gold, I want to say green turquoise. There's a twilight one, which is like a purple or amethyst to blue. And I'm not really sure. I mean, you do get a sense of that a little bit here in these colors. The best way for me to really think of them as really like a color shift acrylic paint, where you have like a blue to purple kind of like shift when it's under the light. That's what those do. Right there, those were the iridescents on the one side. And then I also had another little section on the premium paints right there with the texture to them. I wanted to see what that would look like. But from here, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys watch my hands talk as we start creating a couple of different jewelry sets using my Fine Tec Watercolor paints. Okay, so we're going to start prepping some of our clay here to create a nice little earring set, and I'm using 2 cutters. I will have the links to these cutters in my description area. I want to say they were connected to the boho. In fact, one of them I think was from last time when I did the boho cutters. This is the same cutter, and then also another set that was very similar to it. So I will have the links to that in the description area. Anyways, I'm taking my clay, I'm just punching down a couple of these pieces, I'm ripping it up, and then I'm going to lift this up off of my regular tile surface and put it on my bake tile. What I'm going to do from there is I'm going to bring in some black and white acrylic paint. I'm going to go ahead and brush that paint right over the surface of this raw, unbaked clay, and we're going to have a little fun with it. Right here, I'm going to cut down from one corner to the other on one of those squares. I'm going to lift these 2 pieces apart eventually. And like right here, like I said, I'm bringing in my black acrylic paint and we're going to paint right over it. I cut a few more of these pieces, and instead we're going to go ahead and now paint these with the white. So we're going to have a little bit of a variation, and you're going to really see then from here how that black and that white really differentiate when it comes to those Fine Tec colors when they are applied. Now, when you're applying that paint, I mean, sometimes it gets messy, right? So I decided to go ahead and just lift these things off their surface and put them on another tile. This way, then I have something clean to work off of and not a bunch of paint that's attached to it. Okay, so now we're going to bring in our Fine Tec, and I will admit in this, I have been in a ruby mood. And that's what we have here. I'm going to be using my ruby pan here on these particular earrings. I just, oh, it's such a rich red. It's beautiful to look at. And I just couldn't resist. I thought, yes, we're going to do this. And you're going to notice right away here, I'm putting some of it down. It's very subtle at first. If you really want it to shine, you really have to dig in there a little bit to get some more of that pigment up. But guess what? Here's the other thing I didn't mention about these particular watercolors. They do not disappear like right away. This pan lasted me like a long time. Before I got to this set of earrings, I was already working on another little project, which I kind of put up there as a post here on YouTube. And you guys saw that. It's coming. I already painted it with that. I mean, these things they last quite a while. And if you really want to, or if you're really wanting to use as much of that pigment as possible, trying to get as much of your money's worth, the thing is with these trays that they come in, they have it where, you know, if you take a little bit of water and you've got a ton of pigment, say on your brush, put it on that tray and then add more water, and that water will take that pigment off your brush and just brush it onto that pan. You'll have that pigment right there once it dries up that you can go ahead and use anytime you want. So you really do get your money's worth, and you're not going to be just wasting it by having it in the water and you dump it out. Now that I have these pieces thoroughly painted to what I like, I'm bringing in one of the white acrylic pieces that I had done. I'm going to cut this in half, and eventually I'm going to also be applying that same ruby red pearlescent paint to it. Now, I know I'm using my brush here, but I also like to use my finger. So I'll dip it right into the pan, and sometimes I get a better result putting it down into that pan and putting right there, getting the paint onto that clay right away. Now, this being said, it is on my finger, right? And you're trying to save some of that. Use your brush and paint your finger to lift off any kind of pigment and put it down on your pan. So none of it will go to waste then. For a small change of pace, I decided to bring in my iridescent paints, and I'm going to use the amethyst, which is the purpley type. And this is what they look like in their pan. When I first bought them, I almost thought, I'm going to take these back. These look really weird. But the more I played with them, the more I fell in love with them. So this is what I did with mine. I already had the pearlescent down, and then I just put that amethyst from that iridescent right over the top. Okay, so the more I started looking at those half circles, the more I didn't like it. I was like, no. Let's stick with the same cutter and we'll just cut a quarter of each one. So that's what I did here. I just did a quarter, and it was, of course, covered in my white acrylic paint. Again, I'm going in with my ruby red, and I'm going to go ahead and apply that ruby to these two white new pieces I brought down onto my tile. Now that I have everything painted up, I decided to bring in a bullseye cane, a checkered bullseye cane with my purple. I thought, let's highlight the purple that's on this particular set of earrings already. And I also brought my two smaller little squares down, or diamond shapes, down onto the other piece. Once I did that, like I said, I brought in my bullseye cane. I'm going to cut slices. I'm going to use my needle tool to go ahead and score up a couple of lines right up the center. And these will be like petals from a flower. And then once I have that in place, I'll bring in like some rhinestone pieces that I had off to the side and kind of complete up this set. And then we'll move on to the pendant that will match this set of earrings. To complete up this set of earrings, I'm going to go ahead and back all of this onto some black clay. This way then, I'm using a little bit of my super glue. I know I'm addicted to that stuff. But this way then, it will all be solidified into one piece together. Okay, now with the matching pendant, again, I'm going to be bringing in that ruby red, that watercolor paint, and I'm going to go ahead and paint over my acrylic paint that I've got down as a base here on this piece. Once I have that, I'll bring in some more of that bullseye cane, a little bit more of that rhinestone stuff, and really distinctualize it from the earring set that I have going. Especially when it comes to the bullseye, I went ahead and reduced down part of that bullseye cane so I can make some smaller petals and place them onto the pendant piece. Here now I have that bullseye cane which has been reduced down to 1/4 of an inch in diameter, and I'm going to cut a couple of slices from this cane, and then I'm going to create those little petals from that, and then I'm going to make those, or I should say I'm going to take those petals and put them on the points on the square piece in this pendant. At this point, I went ahead and I created also some tiny little black balls. I'm going to put them right at the base of each of those tiny petals. This way then I can also indent them where I can put a rhinestone in, and it will help solidify those particular petals to the pendant piece. Once I have that done, I'm going to also bring in my iridescent amethyst watercolor paint, and I'm going to just paint in the little tiny point areas that are still showing to help match up to our earrings. At this point, I've baked the original pendant, and I'm putting down another little piece of black clay, and you could tell some of the pieces fell off. So I'm going to take a little bit of glue and adhere this down onto some fresh unbaked black clay and then bake it yet again. This way then it'll all stay solid on one piece. My second set of jewelry, I wanted to change it up a bit and just do a different color. So I'm bringing in what I kind of call, this is like a blue silver is what they call it, I believe. And I really liked it. I just thought it was so pretty. And I thought we're going to do this on some white, and then we're going to also do it on the black just to have a little bit of a different contrast when it came to the backing. Anyway, so I've got that, and I'm putting this down with my fingers. Seriously, I kind of like, I don't know. I like my fingers. I like to be able to play in the paint too, other than just the clay. So once I get this, once I get this clay covered with this blue silver, I'm also going to bring in some regular, I want to say lavender or purple light clay. I'm going to create some petals there. I'm also going to add in some little white balls this time, and some pointed back rhinestones and one larger rhinestone piece. And these particular rhinestone pieces and the rhinestones will have a turquoise type color to them. Now you'll notice there I went ahead and I cut off the top part of my square, and I'm just going to take that out of the picture. I also clean it up here with my blade or even my needle tool, which is just fine, or X-Acto knife. And I did this because I wanted the same kind of circular kind of form or shape as what I had originally. And this way then too, I can put that little disc now right into it, and we could start putting in those petals and everything else to create this particular pendant. Here we are going to start creating our matching set of earrings to that pendant that I just got done working on. And I'm cutting this in half. Once I cut this in half, I'm going to take some of those purple little balls. We're going to create some more petals, and then bring in a couple of little white balls with some matching rhinestones, and we'll have the set all completed. So from here, I'm just going to go ahead and let you guys watch my hands talk as I complete up this second set, and then we'll finish up with our rhinestones and our findings. All right, so this set has already been baked and everything, and I'm just going in, I'm adding a little super glue into the indented areas, and I'm just adding in my rhinestones where I need them. Then I'll go ahead and add in my jewelry findings for the earrings and my chain for my necklace piece. Once I have that, I'll place them into each of their own corresponding boxes. My second set of jewelry, I'll do this yet again where I add in the rhinestones, I'll add in the jewelry findings, the chain, and then put all of that into one corresponding box. All right, so this is the end result of creating my pearlescent type jewelry and also with my boards there for reference. Please do use this for study and reference. And if you like this video, please like, subscribe, and leave me a comment. I'm always wondering what you're thinking. Otherwise, I am sending out my biggest hugs to each of you, and I hope you have a fantastic day.